Flosstube. My name is Becca, and I am SamBrie Stitches here on Flosstube and other social media sites. Welcome to the April 2023 special edition of Interview with a Flosstuber. I'm very, very excited to be here with Miriam. She is Marumi Crafts on Flosstube. Now, her channel, I think, is a wealth of eye candy and information. She shows her beautiful stitching, and I also enjoy that she kind of teaches us about her culture as well, which is really nice to hear about and to learn, because we all should be learning. And she's also a fellow cross-stitch designer, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we get to see her beautiful designs. And what I think I relate to with her is her designs have a lot of meaning behind them, whether it's her culture or what's going on in the world or something. And mine, I try to do that as well with mine. So I think that resonates with me, and it comes across really great in her videos. So we'll learn more about that. But if you have not checked out her channel or any of her social media sites, I'll have them linked down below. So please go subscribe and go follow her, because she does have an incredible channel. And I feel like more people need to watch. So I'm excited that we are doing this interview.
I do too.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying yes. And for being flexible, because we had to adjust the days because I wasn't feeling well when we scheduled before. But before we jump into the questions, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course, yes. So my name is Miriam. I go by Marumi Crafts on Instagram and on Flosstube, and Marumi Designs is the name that I go by on Gumroad for my designs. I live in Chicago. I have a black cat who's sleeping now behind me. We might have an appearance. I don't know. I'm a counselor by profession, so I do mental health counseling. My job is really stressful, so crafting is a way for me to be creative and have that release, and so it's my happy place. So that's something that I enjoy a lot. I also love have been from the background of traveling a lot and being living in different places, so I have that experience as well, and being inspired with all the architecture and crafts that I have seen throughout my life so far.
Oh, that's really neat. Someday I wish to travel, but I live through everybody else, all their pictures. So it sounds pretty amazing. I know crafting is definitely kind of as the cross stitch especially, is kind of a getaway for a lot of us with everything that's going on in the world. So I completely understand helping you like de-stress and after a long day. So very cool. All right, well, let's jump into the questions. The first one is, why did you start a Flosstube, and were there any particular motivations?
Yes, of course. So Flosstube, what was inspired me to actually start stitching. I started watching Flosstube before I stitched. So I've been watching a lot of people going through the projects and following their progress, and I was really interested in that. And then when I started stitching myself, I realized that there was a gap. So my voice was not there. So I'm like, okay, so we need more people with different backgrounds and different experiences to share their experience and share their projects and what they think and how they do what they do. So I was also encouraged for a couple of other Flosstubers, especially Nitya from Daybreak Stitchery, who she was like encouraging me, like, you need to get on that Flosstube. You need to start Flosstube. So I finally was like, okay, so let's give it a shot. I record, and if I feel comfortable, I will upload it.
Yeah.
So I just recorded on my phone. I still record on my phone. So I recorded on my phone, didn't do that much like editing or anything, and just uploaded to see what happens. And then people surprisingly watched.
That's what we all say when we uploaded our first one. Why are you watching?
I thought maybe like a couple of my friends will watch it, and that would be it.
Yeah.
Really small. But then no, people started watching, and I was surprised. So yeah, that was how I started my Flosstube.
Yeah, I like that you started it because you felt like your voice and you needed to be represented in the Flosstube community and how welcoming everybody was. So that's awesome.
Yes, yes.
So how did you come up with your channel name?
So Marumi is a nickname that my grandpa gave me. It's a term of endearment. So growing up, he always called me Marumi, and I lost him in 2021. And I also have been living in US for a long time, and he was living back home. And so that separation, when I started like my Instagram channel and I'm doing other things, I picked Marumi as my name because I was like, this reminds me of home and that connection. So yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's funny because like my channel name is also it's both of my daughter's names mixed together. So I love that we have that the special meaning. And I'm sorry for your loss. Hopefully, having
Thank
your
you.
channel name and having those memories,
Yeah.
that's extra special. That's very special. So we're going to talk a little bit about your designing. I love to kind of pick designers' brains. And where do you get your design influence from? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm from Iran and I love Iranian designs and architecture, especially, and have been always interested in the history of uh, fiber art in Iran. And when I started watching a lot of Flosstube, and also when I noticed that a lot of people were reproducing some of the old samplers and old charts, which you do. So I watched that and I was like, I wonder if there is something similar in Iran. So I started doing some research. I didn't find anything specifically that is similar exactly like cross stitch. There
Yeah.
is a lot of needle art in general, but not cross stitch specifically. But then I found that there is not cross stitch, Iranian cross stitch, but there are a lot of fiber art that it can turn into those, like it get inspired by those motifs and turn them into cross stitch, which
Yeah.
is something that I like and is my medium. So that's what I started doing. So a lot of my inspiration comes from that. Old buildings. If you look through like different Persian rock, especially, and there was a specific style of Persian rock, which is like a free form, and those who woven it didn't go by any um, sort of like pattern. So it was them and their creativity, and they made it as they went based on their experience and daily life.
That's
So a
cool.
lot of like that was really inspiring to me because there is no pattern to go by. There are a lot of like weird little motifs and creatures in it, really similar to samplers. When you look at like a sampler that was stitched by an 8-year-old or 10-year-old like centuries ago, they're not really accurate in terms of so like
That's
you can
correct.
tell that this is an animal. It can be a dog or a cat or
Yep.
who knows, a sheep. I don't know.
Yep.
It's a similar situation in those rocks. So I was really inspired by that, and I started from there, and now we're here.
That is so cool. So it is pretty similar to antique samplers. They're kind of one of a kind because they're still doing their personal, life or whatever they're experiencing at the time. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really neat. Is it something where can you purchase them or do you just get inspiration from them? Like I purchased the antique samplers so that I own them. Do you
Mm-hmm.
just get inspiration from them or can you purchase those like antique samplers?
You can. They're still made. So even now they're still made.
Oh, okay.
But they're like rugs, so they're big
Oh, they're
items.
pretty huge
So
rugs.
it's not really conducive to like collecting them. There will be a lot of them.
Makes
Um,
sense. Makes sense.
but so what I do is usually doing a lot of research. There are a lot of like books and articles that are written specifically about different motifs that are found in those specific kind of rugs, and also uh, there are a lot of catalogs of different tribes and what they have created. So I go by that, and through those research and articles and all of that, I find those motifs that I'm really interested in, and then usually modernize them or make them a little less weird, because some of them are really weird. So it's turned into cross stitch.
Okay. Yeah, I had a sampler that I reproduced, and I'm pretty sure it's a squirrel, but she gave it like a red eye and then this weird like red, I don't know, it was like a rabid vampire squirrel or something, but I loved it. That's what called to me. So I love those quirky little weird motifs. Yeah. Love it. So how did you learn to stitch, and how long have you been stitching?
So I started stitching in late 2020. So December of 2020, I got my first kit. I got one of those tiny little kits that you get. It has everything in it. Yep. And I was like, I'm going to give it a shot and see how it goes. Before that, I was diamond painting, and I actually got introduced to cross stitch through diamond painting because I was watching Rachel Ray, and she had both Flosstube and diamond painting videos. So I would watch her Flosstube, and that was my introduction. That was the first Flosstube I watched, and she encouraged, give it a try and see how you feel about it. So I got that kit, I stitched it, and the rest is history. First year, I was monogamous stitcher. So 2021, I didn't finish a lot of like projects because I was like doing one at a time and then just getting a hang of it, and was introduced, like overwhelmed with all the things and all the options and everything that was happening around me. So then by the end of like 2021, I was like fully into it, and I've been like stitching almost every day since.
It's strange how stitching is it's like addictive to us. Like I've noticed everybody that I've talked to, they do multiple crafts, but it's always stitching that they always come back to, or they're always focused on. I don't know, like there's something that just calls
so true.
It's crazy. So do you have a favorite project that you've stitched so far?
Yes, it's actually one of my own projects. This is Action Sampler.
Oh wow.
Reflection. I don't know if you can see it. So this is based on a style of rock samplers called wagire. So when they would prepare a project to be presented to a buyer, they gave them options. So they would actually make these small rocks with different borders or different motifs and in different colors. And the buyer would, before they actually order it, because it was made to order, would just choose from those options.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's like a band sampler. And then I was inspired actually by you and adding Hebrew. You came up with your first sampler with a Hebrew alphabet. So I added my Farsi alphabet on top.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
And I stitched it in 10 days. That's why I'm really proud of it, because I wanted to release it for Black Sampler in November. So I wanted to get it done. So I stitched this whole thing. It's 191 by 191 in 10 days.
No way. Seriously. Did you just like take a week and a half vacation from work?
Oh my God, I was stitching nonstop. Nonstop.
That is awesome. So basically they could say, okay, I want this band and then this band and whatever. And then they would, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. Huh. And this was popular when not a lot of like designs were done by a pattern, or had like, now everything is on computer and digitized. But this was popular in 17th and 18th century. Like for a short period of time, and at the time they were worthless because they were just sampler, right? Yeah. So a lot of times the person who actually make the rock would take it home and use it as like an actual rock.
Right.
So a lot of them are lost. So they're now super rare. And those that are available are super expensive.
Jeez.
They're so unique. It's like a really short period of time that this format was popular, and then a lot of them, because they were worthless at the time, they used them and abused them, and they're gone. Um, so now they're
That's incredible.
valuable.
That's similar to, I mean, I bet you that the little girls and some boys that stitched it didn't realize that their sampler that they made when they were 8, 10, 12 years old was going to be some precious, antique sampler that we, collected. And it's crazy. But for them to use the rugs, that's like quilting. They want you to use the quilts that they made, but then they're so beautiful that you don't want to use them. So, that's just so cool with that. That is a beautiful piece that you designed, though. That is gorgeous. I might even want to stitch that. That's beautiful. Oh,
and there are like a lot of people have shared, and I this is something that I really enjoy when people share their version. I usually design them monochrome with only one color, but people have gone like with so different version of this. There now is available, and people, I think Aya Rosen has stitched this with her leftover threads. So she would stitch one thread, and when it's gone, she would switch.
that's
So
cool.
it's in so many colors, and it looks beautiful. That's the most like exciting version of action ensemble that I have seen so far.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, because that could go with any variegated, any solid, multiple colors. Like it could be, you could do a band in one color and a band in another. There's so
Exactly.
many possibilities. That is so cool. And I'm honored that like I inspired you with putting your alphabet at the top of it. That's awesome. So thank you for that. That's so cool. That's so cool. So what do you enjoy most about stitching?
The calmness it gives me. So I do deal with anxiety and insomnia.
Oh,
They
okay.
go hand in hand, and I have like ruminating thoughts. So if my brain goes, I cannot shut it off, and I can't sleep. So I usually end my day with a stitching, and just the feeling of that thread going through the fabric. It's just really calming.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. This has nothing to do with stitching, but it's funny that you had mentioned the insomnia and stuff because I also have trouble shutting my mind down at night. And I was just like flipping through TikTok and something came up and I haven't tried it yet because I just watched it last night while I was in bed. That they said if you eat a spoonful of peanut butter before you go to bed, it's supposed to lower your, is it cortisol levels or something like that? And it's supposed to help you shut your brain down and sleep. So I'm going to try it tonight and see. I don't know if it's true because it was on TikTok, but I'm going to try it and see.
Listen, I try anything.
Yeah, right? It's like anything because I lay down and they flip through until we get tired and I can't, like I'll wake up because I'm like, oh, did I forget to do this or something? So I try to stitch in the evenings too, and it does kind of calm. But as soon as I lay down and I don't have that 1, 2, the counting, it goes. So I'm gonna try the peanut butter. We'll see.
Yeah.
Might as well give it a shot. So back to a little bit of designing talk. What is the time frame and process from like your initial vision that you have to the final product being released?
It's a good question. So I call myself a designer on a whim. I don't go by any schedule. I envy those who have their whole year. Sometimes I see some designers have 2 years ahead, like all planned. I'm like, how? And they're not only planned, but the design is done. It's in the hand of a stitcher. Get the model ready. I'm like, I don't, I don't operate like. So when I have an idea, I just right away. I don't usually sketch either. So I go open my WinStitch and start putting it there, and just it's always in a pixel. Like that's where I start.
Yep.
And as soon as it's done and I'm satisfied, I start model stitching because model stitching for me is part of that designing process as well. That's how I realize if something doesn't work or doesn't look right, and I have to tweak it. And I do that that's all part of the designing process for me. And as soon as it's done, I really have a hard time sitting on a stitched model and not releasing it. Right now, I'm like, seriously, that's like, it bugs me. Right now, I do have a model stitch right there, and I cannot release it because it's part of the collection. That it's like a charity collection that's coming up with Stitchers Collective for Earth Day. It's there, and it's bugging me every day. I'm like, I want to share it. I want to share it.
Yeah.
It's like, as soon as it's done, I put it up. I usually record a Flosstube extra just to introduce the design and give a little bit of background and what it means and all of that, because usually the motifs have different meanings and I need to convey that. So I record that, and the same day that goes up, it's up on my Gumroad, like all of it, like back to back.
I love it. I'm the same way. Like I'm trying to become one of the designers that has the set releases, like all the big designers or whatever. And it's hard. It really is hard because I don't sketch either. I have Max Stitch. And so I go in and I'm putting in the little pixel dots, and I have model stitchers, and it just makes me nervous to send it off to them, because what if I didn't chart it correctly, or what if they didn't stitch it correctly? And actually I have a model that I'm releasing for the summer that was stitched differently than what was charted. So like that, I get that, like where you want to, do your start to finish type of thing so that you can tweak it. I totally get that. I wish that I could do that. I try to do multiple releases, but I love that you just put it in the computer and then stitch it, tweak it, and then release it like all in one fell swoop. So
yeah.
that I think that would be a lot more, I don't know, easier for me. So that way I could tweak the designs and stuff. Mm-hmm. But
I do understand, because like now designing is your full-time job.
Yeah.
So that's a different world. Like designing for me is just an extra. It's a hobby. It's a passion.
Yeah.
I don't rely on that, or I'm not ready to commit to that part yet. I'm like, that's a lot of work and like commitment. I'm not ready for it. Let's do this counseling thing, and this is on the side.
Yeah.
and see how it goes. But I totally get it that if this is like you have to think of it as like, this is business. I need to make sure that I have keep people interested. So you need to have release it more often, or in a specific, like on a specific schedule.
Yeah.
So I get it.
It was not meant to be a full-time job, unfortunately, with everything that's happened. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I love it. And I love that our similarities of we don't sketch or draw, and we just put it in the computer and get from there. It's kind of cool too. So, all right. Well, let's get out of Stitchy Talk a little bit and kind of learn a little bit more about you. So do you have a favorite genre of book or movie?
Cozy mystery. If it's set in 20th century, like early 20s, 10s, or I'm all for it. Cool. Give me Flapper Girls.
Love it.
Blues. I'm good.
That's so cool. History seems to be a pretty popular genre for a lot of the stitchers. Oh, Miss Kitty. Like squirrel. So history seems to be a pretty popular genre for a lot of stitchers, which is pretty cool. So yeah. Do you have a fictional place that you'd most like to go to?
I think this is a cliche, but Rivendell, from the Lord of the Rings, like that. I think it's a popular one, right?
Yes, it is a popular one. Yeah. I think that it's not a cliche though, but it's nice. And Rivendell's the elf, right?
Yeah.
So it's a nice, relaxing
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect.
Yeah.
Being able to relax and stitch and just have quiet because,
Oh
that
yeah.
seems like it. So, if you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
So I thought about this question. I think what I really enjoy is if I could be on a seaside. I don't like laying in the sun or baking, none of that. But I love watching waves wash the shore and I love the sound. So I like the sea view,
Mhm.
seaside, but I wanna be in the cool. I don't want to be in heat or sun or none of that. So that kind of situation and not having to do anything other than like the stitching one whole day. That
Yeah.
would be a perfect scenario for me.
Well, I have the perfect place. You come see me in Washington.
That's actually one of the places on my bucket list. I want to come to Washington.
Because my husband and I just did a little getaway to Ocean Shores, and the beach is beautiful. There's eagles galore. The ocean is beautiful. It's not really sunny or hot because it's Washington.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, and yeah, it would be perfect. The only thing I didn't do was stitch just because we usually just drive on the beach and look for animals and stuff like that. But yeah, that does sound like an amazing day. But yeah, Washington, if you didn't want to bake in the sun and you want to be at the beach, there you go.
Yeah.
I got you. So do you have any other hobbies besides cross stitch?
So I do diamond paint. You can see some of the finishes in the background. And also I paint. I used to paint more in the past, but like now I'm painting with threads.
Yes, that's what I call it too. Painting with floss.
That's what I do now. But I used to like paint a lot and sketch a lot. But now that's all being cross stitch. But yeah, other than cross stitch these days is diamond painting.
Nice. I tried diamond painting, but I feel like stitching just takes up so much time that
Yeah.
I can't do other crafts.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, I love this question, and I'm always curious on how people answer it. This is, how would your friends describe you?
So, um, I think they will say I'm a good listener and have a calming impact, so I can calm people down if they're in distress. Um, I don't know if it's because of my profession, but even before that, I think I got into that counseling because I was already that person in my friend group. So I was like, might as well charge
Might
that
as
person.
well, profit from it.
So yeah, calming impact and good listener.
Nice. Those are very good traits to have for sure. So, how do you prefer to stitch? Do you use a hoop, a Q-snap, in hand, that kind of stuff?
I use Nurture, one of these square ones.
I've heard a lot of people talk
Um,
about them.
yes, I like it because compared to other hoops, these are tight. I used to do only stitching Q-snap, but it was too heavy on my hands, and I do have carpal tunnel and all other issues that usually comes with,
Yep.
you know, crafting.
With our crafts.
And it will get really heavy. So these are much lighter than that, and because it's really thin, it's easier to put it in different stands. And it's tight, so it's tighter than regular hoops, and it leaves less mark, I think. So yeah, I like Nurse hoops.
I might have to try those. I have so many Q snaps. It's not even funny, but I get how, I have a lap stand and I don't like to really switch things up. I leave my full coverage basically in that. Um, but to hold them, that gets to be a lot because I get the arm pain. I have to get shots and stuff like that. So I might have to try because so many people are talking about the nerd tubes now. It's like all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's the new cross stitch trend.
I know, right? Everyone is now converting to these, and
Yeah.
they come in. This is size 3, and this is my my favorite size. It's not. It's really usually one page of any design fits in these.
Okay.
Usually pages are 70 by 90 something, a little less, a little more, and it fits in this.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I try to keep my designs 70, I think 70 to 75 wide when I'm designing because I prefer the bigger I prefer the bigger squares on the charts.
Yep.
So do you have a preferred fabric that you kind of lean towards, or you just do whatever?
A-day stitcher through and through. I used to be all 18 count. Now, recently I have started stitching more on 20 count because I like to stitch with sulky threads, and sulky on 20 count is like, I think it's perfect coverage. It's a little raised, so if I'm someone who likes to see that, like the difference between the fabric and the actual thread. I wanted to raise up a little bit, not completely puffy, but just a little. And one strand of sulky on 20 count is usually perfect for me.
Nice. Yep, I am an Ada stitcher too, 18, and I just have been stitching more on 20 as well. I do stitch on linen, but I not at all. I only do it for my reproductions if I have to. If I have to. Yeah.
I feel like it's a chore. I'm like, why would I punish myself? This is supposed to be relaxing. I don't want to fuss about with the fabric. No.
Right? Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm trying to model stitch a larger reproduction right now. And it's on the 36 count. And I just am struggling. I don't know. I've stitched models before on linen, but for some reason I just miss my Ada. It's just like in timeout, I'll release it whenever it gets done, whatever. Yeah, not a fan of linen. So do you have a favorite place that you've traveled, and did you bring any stitching along when you went? You probably started fairly recently, so probably not a whole lot of traveling.
Yeah. So since I started, I just went one. I had one trip, and I did take my stitching with me. I went to Texas to visit my aunt in Houston. So we did sightseeing and other things, but definitely in the plane I stitched. And in her house, anytime there was like too much going on and I needed a break, I would just find a corner and sit and stitch.
Do you bring your stitching like everywhere? Like I'll take mine to oil changes and doctor's appointments. Do you do that too? Do you tend to bring your stitching with you?
Yeah, if it's a small and portable, like, I mean, it's compared to a lot of other crafts, cross stitch is really easy to take with you anywhere. I usually take monochrome, which is like a less fuss, and it's just one, kind of thread with you, and you can fit it in a small. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah. So what can you not do without for your stitching? Like your favorite go-to must have besides, the fabric and the floss and the needle, of course.
Needle threader for sure, and grind guard, because I like to snack. So I need to protect my fabric from all the, snacky stuff.
Yep. Yep. I like my chips. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah, I have a bunch of grind guards. I use it on my full coverage, but I need to start using them more for my other fabric, for my other designs too, my other projects. So this is a fun one because I like to see how everybody kind of works with their stitching. How do you decide on what you're going to work on next for projects?
Good question. Depends on if there is any like special events happening or coming up. I'm not a complete like seasonal stitcher, but like around June, I usually pick something that is either designed by or has like features, elements, or symbols, something related to LGBTQIA population. I make sure I'm a member. I want to make sure that I represent. So I usually have something like that going on, or start a new project like that. And around closer to winter solstice, I usually pick something that is more wintry.
Okay.
But other than those two big things that are happening, I usually go by how I feel in a moment. If I just finished a big project, I usually tend to pick something really small for a small and quick win.
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
small wins. Like a weekend project. I pick a weekend project. I finish it quickly. I try to make it a SAP, and then I pick something that is larger or more elaborate. And I know that I have to like basically stick to it for months and months.
Yep. To get any sort of progress on it, get that for sure. Yeah, I think that's a lot of the people that I've talked to through the interview series are more of a whatever mood I'm in or whatever calls to me at that time. There's a handful, and I mean just a handful, that are planners or go by those groups, that follow prompts and stuff like that. But for the majority of the people that I've talked to, it's just whatever kind of calls to them. And I'm one of those, like, whatever. I have a couple pieces that I need to get done by a certain time, so I'm focusing on them. But usually it's like recalls to me.
Yeah.
At that time. So we're down to the last question already. But before we get to that, I was just curious if there is something that you wanted to share that not very many people know about you.
I used to sing when I was in high school. And that was something that it was a passion for a minute. For a minute, it was a passion for me.
I like how you emphasize just for a minute. Don't even ask.
In a couple years in high school, I got really into it. We had a whole a cappella. I got into it. We competed, and all of that. And then I graduated, and I just forgot about all of it.
Wow.
Moving on.
Wow. So do you still sing every so often?
Myself in the shower, yes.
Yeah.
When I'm washing the dishes, yes.
The shower is the best place. I can't carry a tune at all, but yeah, I sing in the shower. I get that. But well, that's cool because you could definitely carry a tune if you were competing in a cappella. That's pretty cool. So last question. This is my most favorite, and I love asking this because I kind of like to, even though this has been a whole positive, uplifting interview, I just like to leave it with this. So it's, what's the best thing that has happened to you within the past couple of years? It's been rough. So
yes, it's been rough, and I had some losses, but like majority of us did. But I think finding community, a stitching community, has been like a great, that actually it was a life-changing event for me, because it not only opened the door to find all these friends that a lot of them are from different parts of the world, not just different part of the US, but different part of the world. With working on so many different things, coming from so many different backgrounds, but also open the door for designing and trying something completely new to me, and trying out something that it requires a lot of bravery. It's like, you need to be confident that, okay, not only I like to stitch on this, but I believe more people like to stitch this.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. I get it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure it also kind of helped for personal growth too. I think it did with me with designing, because when I started designing, it was just for me and my husband. It was, that first design was just for home. It wasn't meant to go anywhere. And I showed a couple of friends, and one of them was the shop owner, and she was like, "Oh no, it's an exclusive to my shop," kind of thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I think it helped with personal growth. So it did it with you as well, with you starting to design what you like and then putting it out there, and it kind of makes you feel a little more confident. I think I'm getting But
Definitely.
is that
Yes.
yeah, okay. Yeah, it does help with confidence, and doing the floss tube also does help
Yeah.
with personal growth too. So yeah. I think with you starting during like the pandemic times when all of us were kind of in, the stay at home order, um, doing all those Zooms that everybody was doing, connecting with everybody all over the world, I think it was an amazing time for our stitching community. We gained a lot of new stitchers, and our community grew, and connections were being made during that time thanks to technology. So I'm glad that you joined about that time, and that you started designing and putting yourself out there, because I really think your designs, they're I've been told that there are certain voids in the designing community. Like mine is the Jewish
Oh,
Hebrew
yes.
that I do, and yours as well. That there are different like niches and things that need to be filled. And I think that it's great that you started doing that, because that just expands the whole community that way, and it opens up, because not a lot of people would know you know, would know about your culture or anything without you talking about it and being comfortable. And I'm slowly getting there with talking a little bit more about my heritage. It's still a little tough, but um, I think it's great. I think it's great that that all happened for you in a couple of years. And I just, thank you for putting yourself out there and for teaching us so many new and incredible things, and in showing your designs. They're amazing. They're definitely going to be a piece of history for sure.
I
For that.
appreciate it.
So thank you so much for taking time out of your day, and using up your lunch break for this interview. It was really great to get to meet and chat with you and learn a little bit more about you, and just share everything that you do. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for inviting me for this. It was really nice talking to you, for sure.
Of course. All right. So we'll say bye to everybody on Flosstube. Bye, everybody.
Bye.